Hey everyone, my name's Lily and I'm the book blogger behind Utopia State of Mind, and today I'm going to share with you my February wrap-up. I read 31 books in February. I know I was like so happy that I read, I think 21 books in January. So I read 31. Not so happy about that honestly, but my holds came into the library all at once and I had to read book club books, and also you have already found out by now, but I'm moderating a panel from Epic Reads, and so I had to read those books. So like, while I'm not happy that it became 31, there were a lot of things that were kind of out of my control that ended up making it 31, but I had a fantastic reading month actually. So these are the only ones that I have, it's so bright. These are the only ones I have in person, so 4 out of 31 I guess. I read 31 books, and 40% of those featured queer characters, queer main characters, and 52% of those featured characters of color. So I'm just like smashing through those goals. When I started February, I was like, this is going to be a very queer month based on my TBR. And of the 31 books, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 like fabulous, notable reads to share with you today. So it's going to be kind of a long video. Get a drink. I know every time I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a long video. Just accept it. That's just what's happening. Anyway, I have read a bunch of YA fantasies that I truly, truly loved. And let's just jump into those. Basically, it's YA fantasy, romance, and then a few that are in other categories. So the YA fantasies I read, let's see, 6 that I loved. So going from the top, which is always hard because these are chronologically the ones that I was like reading the last parts of January and just finished in the tail end or beginning of February. So the first one is From Dust to Flame. I think I'm going to try to keep it short though. What I love the most about From Dust to Flame is that it really talks about these ripple effects of things that happened in our past that we might not know about, but that are like still echoing down into our consciousness, into our family, and also into our experiences without us even knowing it. That's the first element. The second one, what I loved about it was also the relationship, like the brother and sister relationship in From Dust to Flame was just super, super touching. I feel like I don't read a lot of brother-sister relationships. I feel like I read a lot of brother relationships or sister relationships, but brother and sister, loved it. Basically, one sentence description of all that I can remember from Dust to Flame is that it's about this girl, and on her birthday her eyes turn into these little like slits. I think they turn into yellow eyes actually. And so then a series of transformations start happening, and so in order to figure out why that's happening, she has to go back and discover the secrets of her family that she didn't know about, and her mom disappears. Like a whole bunch of stuff basically happens. The next one is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. Love this one. I knew I was gonna love it because Axie is like an auto-buy author. I've been following Axie since Rebel Soul, and like, I haven't really seen a genre that Axie can't do phenomenally. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. There's a girl and her brother loves this other girl, and that other girl is supposed to be the like chosen sacrifice for the sea god. And so at the last minute, the main character, she decides to sacrifice herself to save her brother's like crush, I guess. And she goes down into the sea god's lair / under the water, and then there she kind of discovers how can she try to save her community, because everyone's kind of like, oh, when the sea god falls in love, then like everything will be great. And then she finds out, is it really gonna happen? Why I love The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, I loved how The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, the under the sea part of it was so rich and atmospheric and immersive. I know that that's kind of where the majority of the plot was going to be happening, but I just loved that character. Well, not the character, but yeah, I mean the whole underwater, the whole supernatural beings like underneath the water. There are some, I'm not gonna say it, but there are some supernatural kind of fantasy elements underneath the water. Those are all fantastically done, and also the main character is really great in the way that she is so determined and passionate, and like she thinks that she wants to save her family and her community, and like she is so clever. And I also loved how in The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea there's a lot of exploration in this idea between what are the gods' responsibilities to humans. I feel like we read a lot of stories about humans and gods and like all of these different things, but it's like What is this relationship of this push and pull, this give and take between humans and gods, and what responsibilities do we owe to each other? Like, all of that is explored in The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, and that's another reason why I love it. The next one is Foul Lady Fortune, which is the like sequel duology to These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends. These Violent Delights. I'm still on These Violent Delights, I guess. Foul Lady Fortune takes the story of Rosalind. Rosalind is living in the world post Our Violent Ends. And so Rosalind, through a series of events, becomes a agent, you know, read and see. And she has to undergo a fake dating scheme where she has to go undercover in fake dating. And after that, they have to unravel all these mysteries that are still prevalent in Shanghai. Like, there's still stuff going on after the end of Our Violent Ends, if you can believe it or not. I can't really say that much because I don't want to really spoil like what happens in Our Violent Ends, but that's the general thing. And why did I love it? I knew I was gonna love this, and I am blown away with how much I love it. Like, I knew I was gonna love it, but I really love it. And also, I mean, I love fake dating, and Rosalind was a character that I had a lot of intrigue in from the other two books, and so it's really fascinating and really cool to see this side character become the main character, and all of these like feelings and histories and secrets that are going on behind the side characters from a concept point. I think that is so cool. And also, Foul Lady Fortune is action-packed. I think the whole last like 20% I read in one sitting because I couldn't stop reading. Foul Lady Fortune is amazing. It is everything I wanted, and if you loved the first duology, you kind of have to pre-order and read the second one. The next one is Blood Scion. Blood Scion is a story about the main character. She has to suppress her magic because she lives in a society where they're like being colonized, and so this invading force is kind of against, I was going to say magicians, but it's not magicians, against people who have magic, but then she's drafted into the army to fight for the colonizing forces, and then she decides, okay, but from the inside, can I like actually burn it all down? Amazing. It was on my TBR before the Epic Reads event, and then like happy accident that it was also in the Epic Reads event, and it is amazing. It is intense, it is raw, please read the trigger warnings, but I think what I love the most about Blood Scion is that it really explores the complexity of survival, it explores the complexity of ethics, it really looks at what we can live with and sort of monstrous actions versus monstrous people. So like this idea that people can do monstrous things, but doesn't make them a monster, right? Like, where is that line, an ethical line, you know, moral line, where is that? And also kind of what are necessary sacrifices that we have to make to kind of advance the revolution, advance ourselves, advance our family, you know, whatever it is. Like, all of those kinds of themes and idea nuggets, I guess, are so thoughtfully nuanced and just so well thought out and explored in Blood Scion. It is so amazing. I definitely recommend it. The next one is A Magic Steeped in Poison. Another one of, like, this whole list are like books that were super high on my TBR and highly anticipated, and A Magic Steeped in Poison was amazing. I love tea. I drink basically anywhere from half a liter to a liter of tea a day, so A Magic Steeped in Poison was going to be on my TBR, and it was fantastic. I think what I didn't expect to love about A Magic Steeped in Poison, because I didn't really know it was going to be there, were the politics and like the court politics. So basically, A Magic Steeped in Poison takes place, the main character wants to go and compete in a tea competition to be like the main tea person / tea advisor to the Ink Kingdom, and because of that, she wants to do that because she wants to get the help and the resources to help her sister, who she thinks she poisoned, and she wants to save her sister. That's the basic of the foundation. But then when she's at the competition and in court, there are all these politics and like webs of lies and subterfuge and backstabbing and betrayal and all of these different things, and that's what swept me away. I loved the competition element. I loved the tea. I loved the fantasy tea interwoven magic system, but the politics and the court shenanigans and like the court politics were absolutely riveting. Like, I'm not necessarily one of those people who really loves kind of court politics. It's kind of honestly why I don't read a lot of like historical fiction set in England. This is normally not my thing, but this was fabulously done. The action, the intrigue, all of these side characters who are like embroiled in this plot and this court. Amazing. Would highly recommend it. The covers are gorgeous. Please just pre-order book 2 already, because I finished that ending and was like, I need book 2 like right now. When you get to the ending, you'll know why. So just do yourself a favor and do it now. And the last one is Lake Lore, Anna Marie McLemore, auto by author. This whole list is full of auto by authors, but Anna Marie McLemore is one of my faves. I read all of their books and loved all of them. Lake Lore is definitely different than their other books. I think that Lake Lore is so much more focused on character and so much more focused on there's this like whimsical supernatural element to it, and that's the case for all of Anna Marie McLemore's books in my opinion. But I feel like this one was more nebulous. Like, it was more nebulous and was a little bit more ambiguous, a little bit more like not as present. Okay, it's present, but not as present as it is in some of the other books. But it's so beautifully tender and emotional, and based on these two characters who are getting to know each other. Basically, they both have like relationships with this lake figure, this like supernatural lake figure. I can't really describe it to you. The supernatural lake, which kind of ties them together when they realize that not everything about the town is doing what it should be doing, and this supernatural lake is doing stuff. And then they grow and they make this friendship, but it's like a tenuous friendship because they're both hiding secrets and they're both struggling to come to terms with things and to be open and vulnerable. And it's really hard. It's really hard, and it's emotional and it's tender. And I read this one. It was like a book that was super easy to read because these characters are so empathetic and relatable and endearing and captivating, all of these different things. And it also really makes you think about like these truly kind of feelings of fear and vulnerability, and about being so scared to like open up to someone and to explain to people how your brain works, because there's ADHD and dyslexic rep in the book, and all of these different things. Like, it is so emotionally tender, and you can tell that Anna Marie McLemore put all of themselves in this book. Like, it is just, if you are an auto-buy fan, you just gotta read it and you will absolutely love it. The next are 2 YA faves. The first one is All the Right Reasons by Bethany Mangle. This one was so fun. Basically, Kara and her mom, I only know the main character's name. Names are the first thing that go for me because I'm holding up the book right now. But Kara and her mom, Kara goes viral because she makes this rant about her dad who cheated on her mom, and it goes viral, and then her and her mom are invited to this single parent dating show. So I think what I loved about this one is that yes, there's a romance aspect because they're on this dating show, and also she's like having some sparks, but All the Right Reasons is so firmly rooted not only in Kara, but in Kara and her mom's relationship. Like, the intricacies of their relationship, how they support each other, how there's like a secret code between them, and also how they can also like betray / like be so caught up in themselves, and how that affects their relationship to each other. Like, I think that the mother-daughter relationship in All the Right Reasons was just absolutely fantastic. This definitely makes my shelf of books that have great mother-daughter relationships, or not. Yeah, it's not great in the like, oh, this is so perfect, but great in like, these are complex, nuanced characters who are really exploring mother-daughter relationships and sometimes the troubles that they have as a mother and daughter duo. The next one is The Truth About White Lies. I basically just finished this like 2 days ago, and so excuse me because my thoughts are super raw on this one. The rest of them I finished for a while, but The Truth About White Lies is a really interesting, and it was really hard for me, book, because basically the main character, where is the synopsis? Basically, the main character, she is moved back into this new town, and it's a gentrifying town, and she's in this wealthy private school. And in this private school, she ends up meeting all of these people who not only have interesting, complex, kind of messed up relationships within their group, but also within their group in relationship to the town, the gentrification, the wealth, the privilege, and specifically the white privilege. So basically, the main character is trying to figure out friendship and love and relationships. But the truth about White Lies is very much about dismantling your own white privilege and having these experiences where you like laugh off really awful things, or you don't realize necessarily that you're benefiting from white privilege, even though people are telling you. So it was like difficult to read in the sense that this book isn't written for me. Like, you know, this book is clearly written for teens who are struggling with like things that they're hearing and saying and having to dismantle their own white privilege. You know, like, while I have certain privileges as an Asian woman, these are not necessarily the same privileges that that we share necessarily. So in a lot of ways, it was super hard to read because you're just like, oh my God, the white privilege here, like the racism is just astounding. But that's the whole point of the book. Like, the whole point of the book is about dismantling this and having a character who is a teen and struggling with these like feelings and not knowing what to do with it, and being kind of enmeshed in a society where it's just not talked about, and it's just like, oh, we're not racist, but dot 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 dot. You know, like, I really admire this book for doing that work, and I think, I hope that it will find teen readers who can also start to begin that journey about dismantling your own privilege, because dismantling your own privilege is a process, right? Like, I have privilege as a Asian woman, and so I need to dismantle it as well, and it's certainly something that I was not necessarily doing as much of as a teen, and really starting to think about it as becoming kind of a freshman in college and all of these different things. So I hope that this book really finds people, and as I said, it's obviously not like necessarily written for me to dismantle my white privilege, but I really loved Olivia A. Cole's sci-fi books, Conspiracy of Stars, and I think Anatomy of Beasts. Yeah. And so I really was intrigued by this one, and I, in general, really, really liked it. But as I said, it was certainly a book where audience does matter, and I think that this book, hopefully, will find a lot of teenagers who can start that process of dismantling your own privilege, because I do think it's important to kind of meet people sometimes where they are, specifically teens who are in that process, and so I definitely thought that this book has a lot to think about. And the next one I want to talk about is Bluebird. This is an adult sci-fi. Basically, in Bluebird, the main character, she is like a bounty hunter, and she is an X-faction bounty hunter, because in the sci-fi world, everyone has factions, but she is X-faction because of events. And then her sister is kidnapped by the faction she used to be at, and they're like, look, you have to give us back that thing we stole because we have your sister, dot dot dot. And so basically Bluebird is about her journey, and it's about her navigating, obviously, that very scary situation. But it's also with a bunch of characters that I really love, because on her journeys, basically, when she finds out that her sister's been kidnapped, she picks up like this random hitchhiker. And so that's fun and exciting. The hitchhiker relationship, or like the relationship between Ginka and Rig, those are the two main characters, or like the main character and the hitchhiker. That relationship is fabulous in general. Bluebird is one of those books which so perfectly balances character and action in a really compelling, fantastic way. I think if you really love queer sci-fi, you definitely have to read Bluebird, because the world is so fantastic. I'd read a bunch of different books in this world, and also Rig as the main character is really fabulous. I loved her relationship with Ginka and their friendship. Especially, I think Ginka is a very fascinating character for reasons I cannot disclose. So you got just read Bluebird, and then we can chat. And the final three are three adult romances that I absolutely loved. So the first one of those is Count Your Lucky Stars. This is the third book in the Written in the Stars trilogy. I don't know if there's like a trilogy name for that, but the other ones are Written in the Stars, Hang the Moon, and I think Count Your Lucky Stars. So it's all in that world, and it's so beautifully, I think it might be my favorite of the series. I'm not sure if it's my favorite, but it might be. It's up there, because what I really loved about Count Your Lucky Stars is that it's so character driven, and the main characters, it's dual perspective, but the main characters have to really kind of think about what they're doing and think about their relationship and their relationship in themselves to the relationship. So really having to dismantle this idea about like, oh, I'm just in it for the casual, and then this other one where like, I'm gonna catch the feels, and oh my god, like, if you love the dynamic of people who are catching feels and denying it heavily, Count Your Lucky Stars has to be on it, because that is a big theme in Count Your Lucky Stars, and it's also one of the reasons why I loved Count Your Lucky so much. Count Your Lucky so much. Count Your Lucky Stars so much. It's also super steamy. Really, really loved it. And if you really love those dives, you definitely should read Delilah Doesn't Care. Ashley Herring Blake is an auto-buy author for me, and Delilah Doesn't Care is Ashley's adult romance debut, and it has those vibes hard. So I won't talk about that anymore because it has those vibes hard. But what I love about Delilah Doesn't Care is that Delilah's relationship with her stepsister Astrid is like so good. It is complex, it's nuanced, it's flawed. Like it's flawed in the way that sibling relationships are. I felt like it was super relatable because it was like those instances where it's like, well, you never, okay, this sounds super trivial, but because it's not like that at all, but it's like, oh, you never talked to me. And it's like, well, I didn't think you wanted to talk to me. Like these perceptions about who we think people are, specifically siblings, and who they think that you are, and this like miscommunication swirl of resentment and love and anger and all of these different things. Like the family aspect of Delilah Doesn't Care was amazing. I really loved watching Delilah kind of unpack that and unpack their history, and also like the influences of Delilah's stepmother. That was also really fabulous to read about. Like Delilah as a main character totally swept me away. And I also really loved Claire, who is still kind of tackling becoming like a new single mom and being a mom and sort of what that means for her as a person, and for kind of like, you know, who am I if I'm not this previous role I had, right? Like, what does that mean? So I really loved that one. And the last one is I'm So Not Over You. This one was so fun because it's second chance romance and fake dating together. But it's also like, Keon, the main character of I'm So Not Over You, feels super called out, honestly, by a lot of things that Keon were thinking of. The narration style, or Keon's narration style in I'm So Not Over You, was so witty and wry and sarcastic, and like, just, it was amazing. It goes on the list of books where the actual narration is so much of a reason why I love the book. And so Keon as a main character was so great. It was so fabulous to read about Keon because not only did I feel kind of called out by some of the hot takes that Keon had, but Keon's second chance romance / fake dating, it really makes him have to like think about, you know, do I give this person a second chance if I wanted to? And like, why did it not work out the first time? I think that this combination of second chance romance meets fake dating again was so expertly woven to make Keon and Hudson kind of deal with these issues and tackle them, and also tackle who they were when they broke up, but who they are now. So I loved it so much. All three of these romances are like, definitely highly recommend. So that brings me to the end of my February wrap-up. Ooh, there are a lot of books to chat about. 11 out of 31, almost half. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you can add some of these to your TBR, or that you've read some of them. Please let me know what some of your favorite reads for February were. And I hope to see you in the next wrap-up and next video in general. Okay, bye!